David. David.
He's falling in a beautiful swirling pattern.
David.
What is up, everyone? My name is David Wells, and this is the David Wells Experiment. This might be a short podcast, but then again, I said that the last time, and it wound up being 30 minutes as well, so we'll see. So as I've mentioned before, I've said I want to make a movie, or I want to start to make movies again. And I feel like I always kind of flake out on that. Haven't really made one in a while. I say I've lost the ability to kind of get the band together, rally the troops. And part of me is thinking like, well, okay, I feel if I just need to make one and that'll get me back into the swing of things. And in some way, part of me thinks, okay, maybe I just need to make things. It doesn't necessarily have to be a movie, and that'll get me back into the habit of it, or back into the groove. And so I was thinking, maybe something that would help is if I do like a little film school for y'all. Recount like the steps of what it is that I do when I make a movie. So here we go. So mostly I've done short films, and those short films have ranged from 5 to 20 minutes. I've only really done 2 or 3 features. I say one, like maybe on one of them, just because I edit it down to like 45 minutes. So I think that's like the bare minimum of what a feature is considered. Now, in the case of my features, like, I'll go into that later. But with the short films, I have like a pretty set schedule, like a much more definite process. So how does it start? Well, like anything with a script or a story. So usually what I do when I'm writing a script, first I kind of write a general idea of like, oh, what's something cool that would happen? I just jot down a note. And then the next step in writing a script is I do a bunch of scene points of like what's going to happen in each scene, like a summary. And then I go ahead and I write the whole script. Like I write out each scene. Usually it's like 2 or 3 pages long. So I have the script written. Now I like to first write it in long form, like pen and paper, and then I'll type it up. So the script is written, and maybe I'll fix things in various points. But for the most part, I've got the story. So the next thing I do is, oddly enough, I kind of take stock of what are all the moving pieces that are going to be in this. So first off, I usually shoot things by myself. Maybe I'll have like an assistant. And yeah, it's very much a one-man running gun crew. And the next thing I think of is, what's the most efficient way that I can make use of our limited resources? Because usually when I make movies, it's for a very small or non-existent budget, and you want things to be as slick as possible. So one thing I consider is the actor's time. Like, I don't want to have to make them make any more trips than they have to. I also consider the level of difficulty of securing a certain shooting location. And it's kind of balancing that out. So I try to get as much done with as many people as possible so that we can have something knocked off. So I'll see like, okay, which characters are in which scene, or how often does which character appear in what scene, and what location is in what scene, and what props are in each scene. Do some props appear in more than one? I just write a list down. And one of the reasons I like to do that is, so if something comes up and we can shoot another scene that we didn't have planned, we'll still have those props available, and it's just one less factor to think about. But anyway, so first I take account of, like I said, I write down all the people, places, and things that are in each scene, and I try to schedule accordingly. A good rule of thumb is one page, it takes about 30 minutes to shoot, or an hour to shoot if you want to take your time. That's just me. Now, usually what I try to plan and do is I try to get there 30 minutes early, and worst case scenario, prepare for us getting there 30 minutes, like us not finishing, for going over by 30 minutes. So that usually seems to work out. And once I got a list of all the different elements, I guess you could say the recipe, when I've got the list of the actors, the scenes, and the props, I will go ahead and be like, okay, let's cast this. Or, yeah, that also, and looking for scenes to shoot, or locations to shoot at. And I kind of do this at the same time. I have an idea in the future of when I want to shoot the project. And that influences when I tell the locations and actors, well, this is when we're probably going to shoot it. And sometimes a location or an actor's ability or availability, that'll influence how we'll schedule things. So that's also another thing to consider. So then I just go on the various groups and sites and post a casting call saying, looking for these actors have this trait, age, race, etc., appearance, gifts and personality types, body type, whatever is relevant to the characters. And then hopefully I get responses. So far for all my projects there hasn't really been one where I didn't get one. And so then I just start to plan, and I'll get people sending auditions, and sometimes some people are better than others, and sometimes they'll audition for one role, but I kind of see them for a different one. Another thing I always try to do is, if I know somebody already who I think, oh yeah, they could do it, I'll look to them. Because if you have a friend you think, okay, they can do it, and then, that's kind of a step you can avoid of having to get to know someone. But sometimes you meet some really cool people. What's next? Oh yeah, so the shoot date looms closer, and one thing I try to do is I always try to think about the day that I'm going to shoot, like what's that going to look like? I'm going to wake up, I'm going to get my equipment, and the last thing we want is to not have like the right props for the stories. An even worse thing is obviously an actor not showing up or they've got to cancel something, but that has almost never happened to me. So I don't usually worry about that. And I haven't really had a problem with getting locations. So it gets closer and so I'm making sure I've got everything accounted for, like I've gotten everybody's schedules, make sure it lines up with the day I need them. So what does the day of the shoot look like? Kind of like what I said earlier. I will wake up, I will take account, I make sure I have the equipment. That's good. Then I make sure and usually the day before I'll send a message to the actor, say like, hey, hope we're good for this date. And let's say like, oh yeah. And then I try to get to the location 30 minutes early. That way I can chill, but also, get a lay of the area if I haven't already. And if you plan really well, something like this can happen. One time I actually got there 30 minutes late, but we wound up finishing 30 minutes early just because we had a solid idea of what was going on. Oh, one thing that I cannot stress enough. If I was going to go back to 2004 me, when he first started making movies, I would tell him to make sure to get down blocking the action. And you might be asking yourself, well, what is blocking? Well, blocking is basically just the stuff that happens in the scene. Which people are where in the scene. Like, say, character B, or scene 1 at the restaurant. Jimmy walks from the door all the way to the bathroom. And, Jimmy could walk there any number of ways. He could just go straight there, or he could walk there halfway, realize he forgets something, walk back to the door, and then walk there. Or, maybe he's like trying to not be noticed, so he like tiptoes. Sorry, this is audio, so I'm trying to give you a visual reference. And maybe he drops something and picks it up. I'm just trying to give a real simple idea of what blocking is. It's basically the action that happens in the scene. And one of the things I got from when I was younger, or one of the bad experiences I had, was I knew what was supposed to happen, but I did not communicate that to the actors. Like, I would be like 17 and I'd have my camera out and I'd say, all right, so you guys start fighting or something. Like, well, how do you want me to fight? I'm like, oh shoot. Like, which direction? Your job is to kind of give the actors information and context. And that was something I was not good at. So learn blocking. Can't stress that enough. So I try to get there 30 minutes early. That way I can sort of set up, and if there's a factor that would keep me from getting there on time, we can mitigate that. And so usually we'll get there and then I just talk to the person who's running the location. So like, hey, we're supposed to do this and we got a scene to shoot today. And for the most part, I haven't had a problem. If you're just getting into filmmaking, a great thing to do is just try to shoot for places where you can do it for free, and just, there might be a need for a big crew, but I just try to shoot with as few people as possible, with as unnoticeable and unobtrusive equipment as possible. I usually have one camera, I've got some lapel mics, like little mini recorders. I think there are even like lapel mics that you can put into you can connect to your phone, and there are all kinds of audio recording apps that you can get, so it doesn't have to be expensive. Oh, one thing I wish I had like a while ago was there's now like audio AI that will clean up sound, like the background noise. That would have been a godsend for my last project. Anyway, so I get there, wait for the actors, and in case you don't know, like, it's not a totally uncommon thing for, actors to be called by the names of their characters on a set. Like, I forget, at least that's what I read in a book a while ago. I can't remember what I've done personally, but usually I'm talking, I guess usually I'll say the character's name in like the third person or whatever. Or I guess if I do call the actor by their character's name, I guess usually it would be, I just want them to be in that zone. But for the most part, not to negate some of the great directors and actors who have their process, but for me, I try to keep things as like, hey, we're all here to sort of play pretend and do something cool. Having things be fun will make everything go along much smoother. So we get there, and the reason I say make sure you have your action blocked, like planned ahead what's going to happen in the scene, is I've been a part of films where I was not the guy calling the shots, and the thing that really made everything wind down to a crawl was trying to figure things out the day we got there, not knowing what shots you want to get. I was like, you didn't plan this out a while ago? And before I did movies, I did comic books. And one thing that helps me invaluably is just draw what you want the shots to look like, even if it looks like garbage, if you can understand. So presumably you're shooting this stuff yourself. If not, well, I don't know what to tell you. But if I could advise you to do anything, like, even if you have somebody else shoot the stuff, know how to like move a camera around. That way you can give them an idea of, like, if you're going to have somebody else do the stuff, try to learn how to play with a camera. That way you guys it'll bridge the gap in the conversation. But anyway, so yeah. Like I said, storyboard. Like, basically draw what the images are going to look like in the camera. And for me, the funny thing is, I do storyboards and then I don't look at them, but because I've fleshed it out in my mind, it just makes the shooting process that much quicker. And generally I try to do 2 or 3 takes. Yeah. 2 or 3 takes, and presuming everybody's like read their lines, practiced in their room and everything, like they come to the set that day and they bring their A game. One piece of advice I heard that I've never really had to deal with is usually I feel this would apply to bigger productions, but I'll throw this out just in case you find yourself in a scenario where it would be helpful. They say try to shoot all the exterior scenes first. That way, if something happens with the weather, you can go shoot the interior things and you'll have made some kind of progress, which is another reason why I say, like, keep the props on hand. Oh yeah, I also like, mostly I write scripts, but there are some scenes where I try to let actors improv if they can. And for people who don't know what improv is basically like having the characters make up their own dialogue as though they were having real conversations. You give them a general idea of what you want the conversation to be like, but yeah, it is as it sounds. You let the actors make up the dialogue. So anyway, so that's shooting, and yeah, I've mentioned what kind of audio equipment. I personally use the Tascam DR10L. I'll just put that on an actor, make sure each of them have it. I've not really worked with a boom mic, but I sort of did a couple years back. It wasn't bad, it did the job well. But because I try to make things as unobtrusive as possible, I personally prefer to go with lapel mics. Although if possible, and if it's discreet enough, I would try to use some sort of anti-sound. You've got to be mindful that someone else's lapel mic can pick up someone else's dialogue as well. So you'll either want to try to discreetly sometimes if you're shooting something and you can keep it off camera, try to just be mindful of, like, the actor's mic will pick up other people's audio as well. So there are workarounds around that. What else? And it's good to have a list of what things you need when you're shooting a film. But I mentioned this before. But it's also good to have a list pertinent or having to do with the stuff you're doing that day. And once you're like, okay, we got this, this, and this, you can be like, all right, that's a wrap. And I can't stress enough how important it is to label stuff in the computer. I try to have something for all the video and the audio. Yeah, I mean, that's just, presumably you'll be editing this on a computer. And as I've said before, an AI audio stuff, that can clean up your audio pretty well. And let's see, usually takes me a couple months to get something edited. And if your actors ask for specific scenes from the movie so that they can add to their reel, try and do that, because if it's the least you can do for them. And so it's usually like 3 months later and I've got the movie, and that's kind of it. So I haven't done the best job of this. I feel like, again, I said it was going to be short, but it's kind of been a long day and I just need to make something. So it's a pretty simple operation, putting a movie together. And I guess what's really funny is they're always such stressful endeavors to go through. Like, I'm having fun when I'm making them, but at the same time, I'm sort of losing my mind. But when you've shot the scenes and when you've got it edited together, you don't remember how stressful it was. Like, you don't have that feeling anymore. You might remember that you had that feeling, but all you can remember is how much fun you had. And as I say it out loud, as I go through the whole process, it's like, how come I haven't done that in like so long? And I'm just wondering, what mechanism did I think that I lost track of? Well, anyway, if you've got zero experience with filmmaking, hopefully this helped. And I guess just try to make the thing that you want to see. Try to make the movie that you know that nobody else is going to make. And Jim Jarmusch, he's this filmmaker, he said, originality is overrated. So make the movie you want to make. Whether it's something that no one else is making, or whether it's the movie that everyone is making. Like, if you want to make the next Tarantino movie, go make the next Tarantino movie. If you want to try to make a Marvel or DC movie, go ahead and do that if that's what you want. Because what you want is going to carry you through the process when it does get difficult. So, this has been the David Wells Experiment. Have an absolutely super day, and we will see you next time. Bye.